My hands are trembling as I tell this, because this was the moment I realized everything was slipping. Not loudly, not all at once, quietly, piece by piece. My auntie, who had carried entire families on her back without ever asking for praise, was being underestimated, and everyone in that room thought she wouldn't notice. The family gathering was supposed to be warm, familiar, safe. But the air shifted the second we walked in. Conversations lowered. Laughter bent in strange directions. Whispers slid across the room like knives dragged slowly across glass. I didn't need to hear the words to know who they were about. Every glance landed on her, then darted away. I watched faces I recognized. People she had helped, defended, trusted, smile at her with something rotten behind their eyes. Their expressions were polished, friendly, but the greed underneath twisted them. It was betrayal dressed up as politeness. Her name floated through the room, passed from mouth to mouth like gossip currency. Not praise, not respect. Rumors. She was being painted as naive, too kind, too soft to understand how things really worked. I felt my jaw tighten when I heard someone laugh and say, "She means well, but she doesn't really get it." I thought back to all the times I'd watched her ideas get brushed aside. At work meetings, her suggestions were interrupted, then repeated by someone else who got the credit. At home, her warnings were ignored until they came true. She wasn't wrong. She was just inconvenient. Then I saw it happen right in front of me. A close friend of ours leaned back casually, smirked, and slipped a financial opportunity into his own pocket. An opportunity that had been hers. I caught the exact moment she realized it too. Her eyes flickered. Just once. She tried to stand tall. Her spine straightened, her chin lifted. But I could see the tension pulled tight across her shoulders, like cables about to snap. Strength doesn't always look loud. Sometimes it looks like holding yourself together when everyone around you is pulling you apart. At dinner, someone finally pushed too far. A joke disguised as concern. A comment framed as advice. Her voice wavered when she responded, just slightly, and the room went quiet. Humiliation flushed her cheeks, bright and unmistakable. She hated being the center of attention like that, especially when it was weaponized. I saw it then. The shift. Frustration curling into fury behind her eyes, but she swallowed it. Bitter tongue? Let them think they'd won something by embarrassing her. They laughed at her softness. Actually laughed. Like kindness was a flaw. Like empathy was something to outgrow. I wanted to scream, because they had no idea that the very thing they were mocking was the source of her power. Later, I watched a colleague undermine her project in front of the boss. Just a few carefully chosen words, plausible deniability wrapped around sabotage. My auntie didn't react. She stood there, hands folded, expression calm. But I felt my heart tighten, because I knew what it was costing her to stay silent. This wasn't just emotional. It was financial, professional, personal. Every layer of betrayal stacking on top of the last. Each one cutting deeper because it came from people she had protected. Afterward, she drifted away from the noise, sat alone, absorbed the sting without letting anyone see it land. She refused to cry where they could watch, refused to give them the satisfaction of visible weakness. When she finally left the room, she did it quietly. No slammed doors, no dramatic exit. Just the soft sound of footsteps fading down the hall. The space she left behind felt heavier than when she was there, thick with unspoken injustice and cowardly silence. I stayed where I was, fists clenched, chest burning. Because in that moment, as I watched them go back to laughing and eating like nothing had happened, I made myself a promise. This would not go unanswered. I think about my auntie's life, and it's like tracing a tapestry stitched with resilience and hidden scars. Every thread tells a story of survival, of strength carved quietly into the edges of hardship. She lost her parents when she was barely old enough to understand the weight of the world. Yet she learned to fend for herself with a grit that seemed effortless, a grace that belied the battles she fought in silence. I remember the nights she stood up for me when the world felt cruel and indifferent. Her voice firm, unwavering, shielding me from the sharp edges of other people's cruelty. Those moments were small, almost invisible, but they built the foundation of who I am, and they showed me the depth of her courage. Her financial struggles were a constant shadow. She stretched every dollar, sacrificed comforts she would never mention, all while keeping her pride intact. She wore dignity like armor, never letting anyone see how much it cost her. Betrayal had touched her before, leaving its mark. It had sculpted her careful, almost guarded demeanor, a wall she built not out of fear, but wisdom. Late at night, she would speak to me softly, her voice carrying lessons I would only fully understand years later. Patience, strategy, emotional intelligence. She whispered them as if the world outside couldn't hear, teaching me to watch, to wait, to move with precision rather than impulse. I remember the mentor who tried to exploit her ideas, thinking her kindness meant weakness. The lingering distrust from that experience never left her, shaping the way she navigated life. Each relationship measured, each word weighed. I see patterns now. Patterns I might have missed when I was younger. Colleagues dismissing her ideas, friends doubting her, opportunities stolen under the guise of politeness. Her endurance, quiet and unassuming, was never weakness. It was preparation. Every slight, every betrayal, every moment of being underestimated was a step toward this moment, this reckoning. I think of the subtle signs she carried. The clenched jaw, the nights spent alone with old journals, the quiet intensity in her eyes when she was planning, observing, learning. I remember the late tears she shed in the kitchen when nobody was watching, letting the world's unfairness wash over her in private, only to rise stronger the next day. I sense her awareness now. The way she can see predators disguised as allies, how she measures intentions before revealing her own. She taught me lessons in observation, how to watch before striking, how to learn before confronting. Her soft-spoken demeanor, not timidity, calculated restraint, a tool designed to disarm those who think they have the advantage. And as I trace all of this, I understand it fully for the first time. Her trust was never a liability. It was a weapon, carefully honed, ready to be wielded. The patience, the endurance, the quiet strength, it all leads to one inevitable truth. The reckoning is coming, and it will be precise. The sabotage began quietly, almost imperceptibly. Deadlines she had set were missed, numbers in reports mysteriously shifted, and whispered lies floated just where they would sting the most. I watched her colleagues, with practiced smiles, subtly take credit for the work she had poured herself into, each success she earned repackaged as someone else's triumph. It wasn't just colleagues. Even at a family brunch, a relative leaned forward, casually questioning her competence. "Are you sure you handled that correctly?" they asked, as if testing the limits of her patience. I saw it in her eyes, a faint tremor of rage, but she kept her voice calm, a controlled mask hiding the storm beneath. Small victories were stripped from her over and over, tension coiling inside her like a spring ready to snap. Yet she endured. In a team meeting, she faced public humiliation, words twisted to embarrass her, smiles exchanged at her expense. She maintained professionalism, each syllable measured, each gesture precise, hiding the fire building behind her calm exterior. Then came betrayal from someone she trusted, a friend who leaked confidential information, shattering any remaining sense of security. I sensed her inner storm intensify, fury simmering just beneath controlled smiles. The antagonist flaunted power openly, unaware that she was observing every movement, memorizing every slip, every overreach. She began documenting everything, every betrayal, every slight, every deception, like a ledger of justice waiting for the right moment. I noticed the shift in her presence. Taller posture, sharper words, a precision in every action. Threats escalated, becoming financial, social, emotional, yet she did not react impulsively. Her aura changed. It became subtle, undeniable, a quiet intimidation that radiated power without a single raised voice. Opponents pressed further, oblivious to the trap forming around them, each misstep carefully recorded, each weakness catalogued. I watched her close the act of endurance with meticulous preparation. Every piece was in place, every opportunity calculated. The simmering storm had transformed into strategy, patience honed into weaponry. She was ready, The final pieces of her retaliation were gathered, and I knew with certainty that the reckoning was about to unfold. The phone rang suddenly, slicing through the quiet of the evening. I didn't recognize the number at first, but the voice on the other end revealed a betrayal I never suspected. My auntie's expression hardened instantly. The calm mask she wore for months flickered, just enough to reveal a glint of precise, calculated vengeance. She uncovered evidence, financial records manipulated, lies carefully crafted, multiple perpetrators all linked in a web of deceit. I watched her shift, subtle but undeniable. The endurance that had defined her for so long was giving way to strategy. Her mind raced through every possible outcome, every angle, every weakness she could exploit. A trusted attorney, alerted by inconsistencies in the financial documents, reached out, offering guidance that sharpened her plans. It was at that moment she realized something vital. Her humiliation was not permanent. Her patience, once a shield, could now become a weapon. I witnessed her in a quiet confrontation with one betrayer. They smirked, confident, until they caught the look in her eyes. The gravity of their misstep hit them too late. She was already 10 moves ahead, calm, controlled, but deadly. She began gathering allies with precision, each one positioned to amplify her retribution. A deeper truth emerged. The betrayal ran far deeper than anyone imagined, weaving through family and business alike. Every step she took was deliberate, every smile hiding intent, every word carefully measured. The tension in the room was palpable. I could feel it as the first outlines of her revenge strategy took shape. Methodical, unstoppable, inevitable. And then it happened. A final piece of proof fell into her hands, a key that gave her total leverage over those who had wronged her. She stood there, calm yet exuding a deadly confidence. Every slight, every betrayal catalogued, every ally in position. The stage was set for the reckoning, and I knew as I watched her that nothing would stop what was coming next. The confrontation began quietly, almost imperceptibly, at a family gathering where everyone assumed the evening would be harmless. I watched as she let the moment unfold, letting subtle truths slip in, exposing lies carefully hidden behind smiles. Her antagonist shifted uneasily, each falsehood crumbling under the weight of undeniable evidence she revealed. She had collected every document, every shred of proof, and now used them to secure legal action, ensuring the financial restitution that had long been denied. But this wasn't just about money. The emotional humiliation was deliberate, precise. A carefully placed remark here, a strategic pause there, truths laid bare so sharp they cut deeper than any accusation. I felt a quiet satisfaction as they fumbled, trying to explain away their deceit, only to be contradicted by facts they couldn't deny. One key betrayer finally broke, words spilling out that even she hadn't anticipated, unraveling the web they had spun for so long. The ripple spread beyond that room. Social media picked up on the story. Professional circles whispered in astonishment. The reversal of power was undeniable. She orchestrated a final confrontation at her workplace, public and dramatic, reclaiming the credit that had been stolen from her, every accolade returned in full view of those who had doubted her. Every action was precise, calculated, leaving no space for counterattack. I watched her dismantle arrogance piece by piece, reclaiming every corner of respect and authority that had been stripped away. The emotional climax hit when she faced the family member who had mocked her endlessly, exposing their false superiority with the ease of someone who had waited for the perfect moment. Allies who had remained silent now rallied openly. Fear turned to respect. Legal closure was secured, financial injustices corrected, dignity restored. The revenge was complete, not through rage, but through meticulous, unassailable strategy. And then, finally, she exhaled. Months of carrying the storm, of enduring, planning, and waiting poured out in a single breath. The air was lighter, the world set right, and the quiet power she had harbored for so long now radiated unmistakably. The storm had passed, and for the first time in months, her home felt lighter. The tension that had hung like a heavy fog was gone, replaced by a calm that carried the quiet confidence she had always deserved. I watched her move through her space, each step measured, each gesture relaxed, the weight of humiliation and betrayal finally lifted. Relationships that had been strained by deceit and manipulation were now being reevaluated. Some were severed, irreparably broken by lies, while others healed, rebuilt on a foundation of respect rather than assumption. She began mentoring younger colleagues and family members, sharing lessons forged in the fires of betrayal. How to watch, how to wait, how to strike only when the time was right. I reflected on her quiet power, how patience and intelligence had triumphed over the impulsive anger that would have destroyed her before she could act. Financial security was restored, social respect reclaimed. Those who had tried to undermine her faced consequences, individually and collectively, each humbled by the precision of her strategy. I noticed her enjoying the small victories now. Laughter that came easily, the casual confidence in her movements, evenings unhurried and peaceful. The emotional wounds still lingered, but they had transformed into strength, into wisdom that guided every decision she made. She embraced her identity fully, a force to be respected, never underestimated. A sense of closure settled over me as I watched her. Her story had become a testament to strategic justice, to resilience tempered by intelligence. Subtle victories continued to surface, nods of respect from former adversaries, glances that acknowledged her unassailable presence. She reflected on trust, not naive, not blind, but as a tool that, when wielded wisely, was unstoppable. And now, with past manipulation behind her, she began planning her future with renewed vision, every step deliberate, every choice hers alone. The act closes on a quiet scene. Her sitting in serene contentment, aware of the absolute control she had regained, the world finally bending to the quiet power she had always possessed. Sometimes the quietest ones carry the fiercest storms, I say, looking directly at you. And she was that storm. Every moment of patience, every silent observation, every calculated restraint built a power that no one around her could measure until it struck. Her story is proof that emotional intelligence outweighs impulsive revenge. Justice, when precise, is unstoppable. It is not loud, it is not reckless. It is deliberate, unavoidable, and devastating in its clarity. Look around you. Notice the unsung heroes in your life. The ones who endure quietly, who are underestimated, overlooked, dismissed. Value them before it's too late. She transformed from being overlooked, ridiculed, and underestimated into something unstoppable. From patient to victorious, from quietly enduring to decisively conquering. I see her now. Calm hands resting on the table, gaze steady, presence unshakable. Her strength does not roar. It resonates. She is a living lesson in strategy, restraint, and resilience. I urge you to notice subtle betrayals in your own life, to document them, to reclaim your power when the moment is right. Trust can be a weapon. It can also be restored, but only if wielded with care and strategy. If you've ever felt underestimated, remember her story. Your patience can become your power. The camera lingers on her, smiling, holding a symbolic token of the control she has reclaimed. The light falls gently across her face, the room silent with the weight of triumph. The screen fades to black. Remember this: resilience, intelligence, and quiet strength will always overturn arrogance and betrayal. Let it inspire you. Let it linger, and let it remind you that justice, when earned, is inevitable.